Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Daffy's Roundtable. Today is another Reptile podcast collab. I'm joined by Lyssa's Lizards and Neptune the Chameleon of the Wild Type podcast. Join us as we talk about what it's like being a woman in a male-dominated hobby, where they think the direction of the hobby is going from here, and what are some of the challenges they face. And then, of course, as reptile nerds, we nerd out about some reptiles and we talk about podcasting. This episode was a lot of fun to record, and I think you're all going to enjoy it too. But before we do that, allow me to thank Exoterra for sponsoring this podcast and making this episode possible. Exoterra makes quality products for our pet reptiles to make them feel at home. Also, do me a favor, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're watching this or listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any other streaming platform, please give us a follow. It helps out the podcast a lot and I really appreciate it. Okay, without further ado, everybody please help me welcome Lyssa's Lizards and Neptune the Chameleon from the Wild Type podcast. Hello!
Hey! What's up?
I love these dramatic entrances. What's up with you guys? Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm very excited to do this. And yeah, how are you guys doing?
We're good. We actually just recorded an episode of our own podcast. So
nice. So right off the bat, tell us about your podcast. There you go.
Yeah. So I'm Lyssa, Lyssa's Lizards. I've been posting on the internet probably since about like 2017, probably 18 maybe. Nice. I think I started in 2017. But I actually started as Barney the Chameleon. That was like where I started my Instagram account. And that is how we bonded. Yep. Because she is the chameleon guru. And so, so we met on Instagram way back in the day, probably around 2018, I think.
2018, yeah.
And so we slid into each other's Instagram DMs, became reptile besties, realized that we were, local near each other, and then ended up just growing this friendship. And then a couple years ago, we were like, there's not enough girls in the podcast space in the reptile world, so we might as well make that happen.
Yeah. And I give a little background too. So everyone knows me, Neptune the Chameleon. Mm-hmm. My first reptile was Neptune the Chameleon. So very similar to you, like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like I had my personal Instagram and I like didn't want to bother all my friends and family with all my reptile stuff. Plus I wanted to follow other reptile accounts, but I didn't want to like clutter, like what if my friend gets engaged, right? Like I don't want to miss the proposal. Yeah. But then I also want to see like all these wicked reptiles, and all these like, because I was still new in the hobby, so I was just trying to like learn cool things. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a separate Instagram account just for my chameleon, and if any of my friends or family want to follow it, they're welcome to, and if not, like, you won't hurt my feelings. So I made Neptune the Chameleon, and then she was saying like this was back like before we got, I'm going to use the word bigger so loosely, but like a smaller following, and you could like have your location on your personal profile. So I saw that she was in the same city that I was, and I was like, oh my gosh, like how cool is that? So she's right. Like I slid in her DMs, but at the time I only posted pictures of Neptune, and I mean like my face wasn't in it. It was just Neptune.
So I had no idea who I was messaging. So if I was messaging her or like a 50-year-old man, like I had no idea.
She had no idea what I looked like. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, hi, And then we realized we're in the same city and like want to meet up. And I had to like give her a description of what I look like. I'm like, I have red hair and I'm wearing like a green jacket. And because she literally had no idea. Yeah. And we joke about it because like, that's kind of sketchy. Like,
you agree to meet someone you don't know.
Yes. Well, and I think I was, how old was I when we met? I want to say I was like maybe like 26 or something, 25, 26.
Yeah, somewhere 20.
I don't know, but like that is not something I would do now. Like I would never do that now. It's like my frontal lobe developed and it was like, okay,
the risk tolerance is lower.
But at the time I was like, they seem cool. I'll go meet them.
Yeah. So it was a fast forward, like to her point, like we started going to like reptile expos and like, then we realized we had like more in common than like just reptiles, and we'll pass it back over to you because I'm sure you have like lots of questions for us on like the podcast. But like that's just kind of like how we became friends and like got into the hobby. I guess.
And then we both started like we were both a part of each other's journey. Like I was like, I think I'm going to start posting on TikTok, and she was like, I think I'm going to do YouTube, and we were like, okay, like we always kind of like supported each other, and then we were like, well, let's like merge and do a podcast. And here we are. So
Yeah, and when did that happen? Actually, before that, really quickly, I just want to ask Neptune. You said you brought up the personal Instagram and the Neptune the Chameleon Instagram.
Yeah.
Do you find now that you lean more towards one or the other when you're like kind of just scrolling on Instagram?
Oh, this is good.
That's
Okay.
a good question.
So I popped to my personal one to get like the updates, right? To my point, like who got engaged, right? Like what are the big life events? And
Yes.
Instagram always like posts those at the top, right? So then I have like, I'll check my stories for like my friends and then like, okay, good. Then I move over to my Neptune account and then I'm like scrolling and seeing what's going on. And I definitely spend more time scrolling on my Reptile one because there's just cool, like
there's just cool
I
stuff.
can only see so many like baby pictures before I'm like, okay, that's cute, but like I want to see like here's this gecko species we just discovered. I'm like, that's sick. So I do spend a lot of time scrolling on my Reptile one.
I think I'm at the point because I also have like my separate accounts that are my personal accounts, but like I 100% spend way more time on my Reptile accounts nowadays because like you kind of said, it's like I love my friends' kids, right? Like they're great. I love their kids. I love them. But at this point in my life, it's like I'm 32. So like everybody's posting their kids all the time. And I'm like, I want to see your kids, but like I don't want to only see children on my feed. Like I want to, So
and then we also have the podcast Instagram too. So then we're like, and we only follow other podcasts with that account, like or sponsors, right? So then, but then that's fun because I'm like, ooh, what are everyone's episodes this week? Like, what are the topics that people are like chatting about?
Because like, what are our sponsors up to? Like, what are their new things? Like, what's going on?
So then that feels like more from like a business lens, right? From like podcaster, like business, like okay, like what's the vibe of the Reptile podcast community? But I won't find myself just like scrolling through on that one. That's like my Neptune account.
It gets weird when you've got like a bajillion different social media accounts. You're like, which one am I?
And that's just Instagram. That's not even my TikTok. That's not even YouTube, So
I 100% get that. The reason I ask actually is because I was the same thing. Obviously, I had my personal, and then I started this account a long time ago. And then over time, I saw the shift of just spending more and more time. And then Instagram logged me out of my personal. And it's been 3 years and I haven't logged back in.
No. So everything's just like falling off the face of the earth.
Basically, this is my life now. This is, you want to find me, come find out what the reptiles are doing. Yeah.
I genuinely think that like at this point, I look around and I think almost every reptile keeper, or most reptile keepers, I won't say every, but like most reptile keepers, I think go through that phase where they're like, okay, I really want to post all my animals, but like I don't want to annoy my friends. So I'm going to have a separate account, which is just so funny to me. But I feel like that's like a universal experience in the reptile community. Like most people are like, all right, I want to have a separate space just for the reptiles.
Well, because you don't want to like get like self-conscious about it or like second guess of like, did I post too much? But on my like Chameleon page, I could post every single day, and no one's gonna like if you don't like
people
it,
would prefer it.
Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say some people might actually be like, "Hey, you haven't posted a week. What's going on?"
They want to see it. So like to me is like a safe space where I can literally whatever I'm excited about or whatever projects I've got going, like I can post that. And same with like the podcast, right? Like we have that space where we can have fun with like what we're posting on that one. So where's my personal account? I'm like, okay. Like, how do I want to capture? Like, I don't know. I get actually my head about it a little more.
I'm actually at the point with my personal Instagram that like it's more of a chore to post on there sometimes because
I'm alive. I swear.
Yeah, no, it's truly like I have to remember like every few months. I'm like, oh, I should probably post something there so it's like relevant.
No, I literally had this thought. I haven't posted since like early June on my personal account, and like I'm doing stuff right, but I just like haven't posted it. So
it's not as important.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's even just a reptile hobby experience. I think it's a universal experience. I think everyone gets to a stage where they're like, okay, what are people in my community, in my hobbies doing, and kind of start to lean towards that.
You're so right.
But anyway, well, I tend to be right.
This is good. We'll get along just fine.
I love it.
Yeah, I actually tend to be wrong most of the time, just for all the listeners to know. But anyway, so to kind of get into the meat of it, and then maybe we can touch a little bit about on your collection. But one of the main reasons I wanted to chat with you guys is, and maybe you guys might not agree with the statement, but I do feel like the hobby is more male dominated as of this far, and I do see it changing. And hopefully it continues to change to where it's like, everyone feels more welcome. But as one of the few female podcasts here. Maybe we can kind of dive on into that topic a little bit, and we can start off with like, what are some of the struggles you guys feel or see being women in a male-dominated hobby?
Yeah. No, it's honestly,
that's like such a big question
it really
right
is
off the bat, heavy hitter. Yeah.
No, this is good. Like, some of the challenges, I think this is true of anyone who's starting anything, right? Like, this is not unique to what we're going through, but when you're like the new kid on the block, like sometimes it can be hard to establish credibility just in general, right? Or like feel like you belong. And like imposter syndrome is like such a real thing, truly, for like anything and anyone who's starting something new. Now you apply that as like a minority, right? To your example, like there are fewer ladies than guys in the hobby.
You agree with that?
Fine. Oh yeah. I think that's like
but I think it's
statistic.
I think you nailed it. You said it very well. I think like historically, right, the reptile hobby has been majority men, right? Like I think historically it's always had like been more male dominated. There's always been more guys in the hobby. There's always been more guys in the breeding space. There's always been.
I also think it's skewed older too. Like I think we're seeing the shift of more younger keepers and even young adults. I don't mean like necessarily kids. Like obviously there's kids, but like I think
20s, young 20s.
People are getting their like they're getting their first job out of school. They have their own money, right? They have their own apartment for the first time. They're like, hey, I'm going to go get a reptile, right? Which maybe they couldn't do while they were in school or with their parents or whatever. And I think historically the reptile hobby has skewed a little bit older
and more male.
And now we're seeing a little bit more ladies in the hobby and a little bit of a younger, and maybe that's just because like that's us, we are younger ladies, but I think even just looking at expos, right, and seeing the people who are walking by, it seems to be very well-rounded.
But I would argue that like I think in the next 10 years it's going to be pretty damn equal. I really do, because it's, I think with content creators like Snake Discovery, you know, some of the really big creators who are women who have really come in and like made a name for themselves. I think, and I think TikTok also played like a really big role in that too. I think I tend to see, and granted, I am a woman, so I'm probably just more geared to see more women on my algorithm, but like there are a ton of young female TikTokers in the reptile space. And so I think TikTok kind of opened that door a little bit for the younger generation to have their own space. And so I think like TikTok kind of did a really good job of blowing that up. I think we have really, really great, like when we started in the hobby as girls, there was really nobody that was like above us that we could like look to as like female reptile keepers that we could aspire to.
Figuring it out together.
And it's like, and I know, you know, we have lots of other like reptile girly friends in the community who, you know, run their own accounts, have their own stuff. And we've kind of like gotten to like make some friendships with those people. And it's kind of slowly shifted. But I think because our generation, which I feel like, it's so funny, I'm getting a little off track, but I feel like there's like the younger 20s kids kind of coming up and coming right now. I feel like we're in our like late 20s, early 30s, and we've been here for a minute, right? And then there's like the older crew that's been there for decades. And it's like, I feel like the crew right now that's in our age demographic of like the late 20s, early 30s, maybe even into like the later 30s, like we've been here for a while, right? But we were kind of figuring it out, like you said, figuring it out together on our own and all of that. And now I feel like in the next 10 years, we're going to see all these youngins that did have kind of our age group to like listen to and work with and like learn from and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like there's been kind of like these slow generational shifts that are kind of expanding it with girls in the hobby. But I think a lot of it came from, you know, some bigger creators who are women who were able to kind of be pave the way. And now there's a lot more girls coming into the hobby. I mean, a lot of our audience is, you know, younger girls, which we love. So it's cool to have been in the hobby long enough to kind of see some of these like shifts happening.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually, and you brought up a good point there that I hadn't even thought of. The big names in the hobby like 10 years ago was like Steve Irwin, Brian Barczyk. Like you can name them all, and they're all dudes. Until Snake Discovery came around. Like they're all dudes. So that's very interesting. Do you think that certain aspects or certain, let's call it niches within the hobby have become more like female dominated or male dominated based on species rather than
I don't know about that, but I do think it comes with, there is a little bit of that comes with the territory of being women, where like I do know that a lot of women, you know, prefer some of like the smaller species, but then there are girls who do prefer some of the bigger species.
I think what I'm seeing is historically, and these are such assumptions, right? There's obviously
generalizations.
Like, yes. But I think historically the hobby was like very much pushing beginner species, right? Like start off with this one, then work to this one, then work to this one.
I hate that so much, but yes.
I know. Yeah.
What I'm seeing is a shift of like, no, get the one you want. Just do your research. We have such better access to care information. We have such better access to specialty breeders. We have such better access to like appropriately sized enclosures and care. Yeah. So that if you want the really, really big monitor lizard or whatever as your first reptile, well, that may not be my recommendation, but like you could totally do it, right? Like the amount of people when I said I want a chameleon as my first reptile, and that were like, get a crested gecko, get a leopard gecko, start here, then. And I was like, but I don't want that one. But I want the chameleon. Yeah. And so I think what we're seeing is not so much species to like gender specific, right? Of like this is what females are keeping and what males are keeping, but I think we're seeing people who are spending the time to do detailed research, who are saving the money to get these like killer enclosures from the beginning, who are doing bioactive from the start, who are going to breeders that are like captive bred, you know, specializing in this, and they're getting like the really, really cool morpher species that they want, versus just like getting what used to be called a beginner species just for the sake of getting experience, and like your experience automatically made you a better or worse keeper, right? But I think we're kind of seeing that shift. So that's more of what I'm saying, not like
I would agree. Yeah, totally. And I think you hit an interesting point too. I think even 5 years ago, getting bigger enclosures was way more difficult. Right.
They're like custom built, right? Or they're glass. Right. They're not PVC. So they like weigh 1 million pounds. Shipping's 1 million pounds. You're not moving with that. So you're like, I'm just not even going to bother. But now we have PVC.
Yeah. And so I think also the accessibility to enclosures of all sizes has also helped grow the hobby a lot, because, you know, there was a time where it was like you only had vision cages. That was like the only option for like bigger snakes or bigger whatever, versus now I feel like we have the accessibility has just boomed in the last, 5-10 years. And so I think we have so much more access to like the materials we need, the items we need, the enclosures we need, all of that stuff. And I think that has also helped to grow the hobby with all genders, like I think that has also allowed people to have more access to like bigger species and things like that as well, which is in the past you had to get a custom build, it's made a big difference, I think, too.
A lot of loopholes to jump through to be able to get that species you want. No, 100% that makes sense. Do you think there are certain things that men should be learning from the ladies within the hobby?
Oh,
I mean, I have opinions.
Everything.
I have opinions, but like this is not specific to like guys or girls, right? However, I feel like it's a safe assumption that like women tend to be a little more maternal than
for sure
guys, and not to say that's like everyone, right? There's ladies who don't lean that way, and there's guys that do lean that way, right? Like totally get that. But I do think there's like a level of attention to detail that like women see. I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus, and some guys can be like, oh yeah, well like I pay attention.
Here's the deal. There's always going to be that outlier who, like, for example, you are the outlier who you did take the time, the effort to get the chameleon, right? So like you are an outlier in the sense that like I do think that most people are better off sometimes getting a different species if they're not going to put in that effort, that detail, that research, that time.
But women stereotypically have a little bit more of a maternal instinct, attention to detail, right?
Patience.
Like patience. I was gonna say not rush into things, but patience is the good way to say that.
Well,
right?
And I say that as one of the women who is very impulsive. So
right, cool. Like you don't like it's not uncommon for a female keeper getting into the hobby to like set up a bioactive enclosure, like take their time, actually let the bioactive, like you're supposed to let it be bioactive for X period of time before you introduce the animal. Who's got the patience to like wait, 3 months before they like, no, you're like the plants are in there. That's good.
It's fine.
Stick them in, so I feel like there's that. And there's a level of like wanting things to be aesthetically pleasing too. And so like maybe bioactive is more appealing, or you were into plants before and then you're like, oh, like I really love plants. I really love reptiles. Like, let me go this direction. So I think like maybe those are things not exclusive to female keepers, but I think are characteristics that like kind of make sense, you know, if you just kind of think of like,
and I think just
women stereotypes
from all of that, like when it comes to the stereotypes, like again, there's going to be outliers with everybody, but I think all men and all women could stand to pay a little bit more attention to detail, focus on the aesthetics and the overall appeal, and be a little more patient, right? Like I think we could all learn from that, but
I'm not a patient person.
Yeah, so. Me either.
So maybe that's just something we all have in common. I think it's just maybe a reptile keeper thing.
I know. It's like, so.
No, that absolutely makes sense. Do you think that if the industry or the hobby was built by females rather than men, like from the top down, do you think it would look different today?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. 100%.
How it would look different, I would have to.
I don't know.
I would have to noodle on that.
That's it. Credit to you because we have not been asked this question before. This is a good question.
Thank you. I've been like writing questions and like trying to figure out the best way to, because I don't want to insult anyone on this episode, obviously.
Us
like
either.
There's tons of great male keepers and tons of great female keepers, but I do think it's something that should be highlighted.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Immediately to mind is like ball pythons.
Yeah.
Right? When you think like stereotypical, like, you know, if you were buying like a Ken doll of, you know, what it would be a male keeper, right? It's going to be your like middle-aged guy who's like ball python breeding, has been doing this for a year, you know, and like I feel like a lot of the reptile hobby was built by the ball python guys, right? And like I have so much admiration and appreciation for like the path that they've paved, right, for the hobby and everything else. But like, what would it have looked like if it was like leopard geckos that like paved the way, or if it was chameleons that paved the way, right? Like I feel like, just truly from my perspective, I feel like ball pythons were kind of like a big thing. So I wonder if that would be different if it was ladies.
I'll go out on a limb a little bit. And again, you know, no offense to anybody at all whatsoever, but I do think that if it was, say, for example, it was female ball python owners who like really paved the way, I genuinely think it wouldn't have taken 30 to 40 years for us to advocate for bigger enclosures. I think that would have been from day one, right? I think like the fact that ball pythons will climb if you give them, you know, ample space to climb. I think if women had started in the hobby, it wouldn't have taken as long to get to the care standards that we are now seeing, if that makes sense. I think the speed would have been a little, because I think most women will, you know, look at a rack system and be like, I would like to make some improvements.
It's ugly.
You know? It's ugly. It's too small. Like, let's change some things. Like, I think if women would have kind of paved the way, I think we probably would have moved a little bit quicker to get to some of the higher care standards.
We will never know. But where will the hobby be 10 years from now, right? Now that there is a little bit more of a female presence, or 20 years. Like, I want to be the little old lady that's like, back in my day,
remember,
you know, like, you know, you're talking about generations, right? Like, we're only a couple of years under and over of like kind of the primary age for like reptile keepers. But like, I want, like, where are we going to be when there's like all these generations, right? And like, where is, you know, reptile care technology going to be, right? Like, we're seeing a lot of like apps and LEDs and like UVB bulbs being combined. I think that's also part of the timing, is we are at the mercy of the technology. And historically, the reptile hobby has been a little bit behind. Even from like aquatics, because I'll talk to fish keepers and like, we've had that product for years. I'm like, we just got it over here on the reptile side. So like, I can also see we are at the mercy of that. And like, same with like enclosure sizes. Well, if PVC wasn't really, you know, the price point of PVC or whatever, like, then glass is the best we've got, right? And if we don't have, you know, like really great overhead heating, then like, belly heat is the best we got. So like, you're working with what you have available. So I wonder too, like, where the hobby will be with the developments of technology.
So true.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually started in the fish keeping hobby before.
Okay.
So
cool.
absolutely will tell you that a lot of the things that people are getting excited about now in the reptile hobby, the fish keepers are like, you guys are
They're like,
so
y'all are
behind. Like,
behind.
See,
yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I said.
absolutely.
And we're the first to talk about just the fact too that like the reptile hobby is even behind when it comes to like social media and like different things like
or like businesses or like working with content creators or marketing.
How so?
Oh man,
tell me more.
Oh man,
it's an interesting point. I'd love. Yeah, why do you guys think so?
I think we're seeing a shift probably within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But if you had reached out to a brand and you like have this really cool enclosure idea, it's gonna like get a lot of eyes and like would be really helpful for the hobby. And you're like, hey, like I want to partner, with you, whatever. Like they'd be like, well, do you want like some free bugs in exchange? Like, it'd be like a lot of like product stuff or like, hey, I think we could like promote this thing.
I think this is specifically more, this is less from the like female male perspective, and more from like the content creator perspective, and not just like a hobbyist pet keeper, like a content creator, influencer. I hate that word, but from that perspective, like I think nowadays the reptile brands are really getting on board with like, okay, social media is the way to advertise and market our business, right?
Especially for online brands, right? Yes. Like if you have an online store or an online, place where you're like selling your animals and like. Yes, you should be on social media. Now, if you're a brick and mortar or you're selling at shows, then like maybe that's not the basket you want to put your eggs in. Maybe a couple eggs, but like, is that going to give you the payoff? Probably not. But for your online reptile shops, right, where like majority of their business comes from online, then like, you should be advertising and leveraging creators and influencers who have that like audience that they've built that relationship with. That's going to be much deeper than with the brand. And like, that's not unique to reptiles. That's literally internet, like marketing 101. But I think it took a little bit for the reptile brands to get on board with.
And I think it was the pandemic that kind of pushed them into like, okay, I think we really need to like working with content creators, working with influencers, all of that is like a hugely important, marketing tool. And I think before that, I think they were kind of for a long time kind of trying to get by with the same marketing they had done for years and years.
Facebook ads.
Yeah, exactly.
But someone's got to take a chance. Someone's got to sponsor an influencer, whether that is through product or through cash, right? And see if there's the ROI. And for some influencers, it's going to make sense for that brand. And then other times it's not. You just hope that influencer didn't just like burn the bridge for future partnerships, right? Yeah, of that like, well, we didn't make our money back on that, so we're not going to work with anyone else. But I think we have seen a lot of brands be successful, so they're more open and receptive.
Yeah.
And then also like with our podcast, right? Like we pull the stats of like, here's the benefit from a business standpoint of sponsoring a podcast versus sponsoring, like a YouTube video or a TikTok video or something like that. And like there's different values there, and sometimes you just don't know unless you try. And so it's building those relationships and getting someone to take a chance on like a new media marketing platform.
Yeah.
Very smart. I 100% agree with everything you guys just said.
Oh, good.
Good.
That means you're right and we're right.
Yeah.
Right again.
We're all right.
We're all right. Just to even add to that, I think it's also, firstly, I think it does have something to do with the reptile companies originally pre-pandemic.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of them had the cash flow to be able to throw it around.
Totally.
Like, I think they were still growing as is. But I also think on the topic of like that one influencer not burning it for everyone else, I do think that it's partially the company's due diligence to look into the influencer and check engagement levels, conversion levels, all that. Not just they have followers.
Exactly.
That's so real. Yes.
Yeah, like
100%.
Somebody could have bought those numbers.
Right. No,
see if they build a community first.
Yeah. But I think also like in the reptile industry's defense, like I think they were so new at it, where I feel like all these other non-reptile businesses had been using influencers and content creators for years. And then it was like in 2020, the reptile businesses were like, oh no, we got to figure this out. And like, they didn't know, it's like they're like the reptile world is built on small businesses. So it's like, it's these smaller companies that, didn't have the experience. They didn't know they see the big follower account, and like you said, that is kind of on them, but like, they didn't know. They're just just like a mom and pop, company that has put this together, and they're taking a chance with their money just like we're taking a chance with ours. So it's, I think it's super interesting, but it's been really cool because I feel like coming into the hobby and coming into like being on the internet in this hobby in the time frame that we did, I feel like we've really gotten to witness that grow and shift and change
and help influence it.
Yeah,
right?
and help
like,
be a part of it.
We got to like negotiate like reptile brands were like, hey, we want to do an influencer program. Like, what do you suggest? I'm like, hey, so like I would suggest like this commission, this product. They're like, should we use links or codes? Like I do a chameleon kit, like that had never really been done before. So like we've been able to kind of help pave the way. And then I look at the people who are just getting started or just starting to monetize their brands, and I kind of like tip my hat of like, you're welcome. Like hopefully like you have an easier time than I did, right? When you're having to approach those and you're the guinea pig and you're the first one, and you do feel a little bit of pressure because you're like, hey, if I mess this up, then they're not going to sponsor anyone else, right? And like you don't want that. So you want it to be beneficial for you and for them in a positive, mutually beneficial, experience. So
it's been cool. It's been fun to be a part of, for sure.
I agree, and I think it's only getting better from here. Like there is stats, and I'm not gonna like lie with the numbers because I don't have them like memorized in my head. But there is stats that show that just in general, the amount of households that are having aquariums or reptiles or all of that are growing in comparison to dogs and cats. So who knows where
reptiles are cool. I mean, we both have dogs.
They're awesome.
So
we love our dogs.
Okay,
we love our dogs too, but
you can have both.
Totally. 100%.
I think there was a switch at some point in time where it went from, oh, you keep reptiles, you must be super weird, to, oh, that's so cool, tell me more. Like,
I think it's the exposure, right? It's the people who are scrolling TikTok and come across like a live stream of someone who's just like holding a snake and talking about it, or they're scrolling YouTube and they're watching an unboxing. They're like, whoa, you can ship that to your home? Like you can get that. You don't have to go to your, Petco, PetSmart and get whatever. Like you could get something cooler. Like and then with like more online reptile businesses where like you can have easier access to the right supplies. Like I think that just makes it more accessible. And like you're lowering the barrier to entry either by like getting rid of any like fears or misconceptions, but also like, hey, this is very doable. Like if you spend the time, you spend the money, and patience, right? Then you can be successful.
Yeah. It's been so cool to see this shift. I've noticed so many things shifting and changing. And I think even just in that regard, like more people nowadays know that you can work with a breeder. You don't have to go to Petco or PetSmart. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go to these places. And like, you're not limited to only the Petco and PetSmart. Like you can.
Sorry, it popped in my head.
Yeah. No.
Or like the people who like, we have people who follow our podcast or our accounts that don't even keep reptiles. Yeah. They're just intrigued. They just think it's cool. They're just interested. And I'm like, how special is that? Like, you don't even have skin in the game of like, you have this species or whatever, but you're just genuinely fascinated in a positive manner. You're not like afraid of these things. Or even when I pop up on like very strange YouTubers, right? And I read through their comments and like, oh my gosh, like you helped me get over my fear of spiders. Yeah. Or, is that person ever going to own a spider? Some of them for sure, but most of them aren't. They just were genuinely interested in learning about this thing. I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, it's just been cool to see just the shift in general. So it's, just getting to continue watching that too. Like I'm excited to see where we are in 5 years, 10 years,
Like 100%. I think it's only going to get cooler and better and more products, like you said. And the reptile hobby is only going up.
It genuinely, like world. Every time we go to expos, every time we go to expos lately, we're like, we feel just like this buzzing energy of like growth and like excitement happening. And it hasn't always felt that way, like
things were like 2020, 2021, it was slow. It was dead. It was like a rain cloud was over the whole venue, right? The breeders and vendors felt it. Like the tables were empty, or the hallways were empty. Like there was just kind of this like doom and gloom. Like, it felt like, and now we're starting to get that like momentum and excitement, and
we feel it every show we go to, every time we run into people, every time we meet up with everybody. It's like, it's so exciting, and we just feel like we're on like the cusp of like the hobby like really booming.
So making a reptile podcast works out really well.
Yes.
Perfectly. Yes, absolutely. Exactly. I actually, so to add to that, I feel like 2021 wow, I can't speak anymore. 2020, 2021. A lot of 20s. I think reptile expos were very much, you come in, you buy the animal you're gonna buy, and you get out. Whereas now they're more community events. Like people are going not to buy animals, they're going to meet people, relationships, network, and all of that. So it is, again, really cool to see all of this shift. But on the topic of reptile expos, to you guys, as yourselves as being ladies at the reptile expos, do you feel like when you're having these conversations, you kind of have to prove yourself more than other people around you?
At this point, no. But have I felt
because
that
of who you?
In the past, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think we've both kind of, and not to like toot our own horns or anything, but like I feel like we've both kind of established ourselves as like, you know, people in the hobby who love this hobby and love these animals, and we're very passionate about it. And obviously we're not going anywhere. You know, we've been in the hobby on the internet for 7-8 years now. So it feels like we've kind of built up our credibility, but I do think there was a time where it felt like we had to earn it, you know, and it felt like we did have to kind of like
it's twofold, right?
Yeah.
It's like finding credibility as a creator, because we're not breeder. Well, I'm now a chameleon breeder as of 2 months ago.
But, we're so proud of her.
But I wouldn't like put myself like, that's not my livelihood, right? Like that was a passion project,
like versus professional breeder.
One time mating type of thing. So like there was trying to find credibility. Like I distinctly remember going to dinner with Pangea Reptile, who was like sponsoring, still sponsors, like what was like one of my first sponsors. And they're like, hey, come to dinner after a reptile expo. I was the only content creator and the only girl at the table. And it was like all these gecko breeders, and they were all guys, and they're like, hi, nice to meet you. Like they were so welcoming. And then they're like, so like, what do you do? And I'm like, I've got a YouTube channel about chameleons. And you could just see their brain calculating like what that meant.
What do you mean?
Yes. And then I like went to the next dinner and the next dinner, and I felt more and more that I had a seat at the table because I'm like, Pangea saw something in me. We have this sponsorship and relationship, right? Like where I felt like that gave me credibility, the fact that I had a seat at the table to begin with. But it's twofold, right? Like being valued as a content creator. I think breeders are realizing that like content creators bring people into the hobby and then they can sell, right? They can have those relationships and like getting people to the expo. Like we've been at shows where Snake Discovery is there and it's like wrapping around the whole room.
I keep hearing.
No, it's wild.
So like
they give them their own room or something?
No, they have to, because the first couple times they did, it was like clogging up all the lines for like everybody else.
Yes, and I think vendors were going, oh, okay. So like, we need the content creators to bring people in, and then also they're buying the animal. Who's teaching them how to care for it after the fact, right? That's going to be your YouTube care videos, right? That's going to be your cute little TikToks of like 5 things you need for what, like we're making it engaging and accessible, setting people up for success. We're bringing people in, and then we're getting them to stay. And we need the breeders just like the breeders need us, and just like we need the reptile businesses. Like we are a community, and I think we're seeing more people see that. But like that's a little hard though when you're standing in a group of people at a show, or we're vending as a podcast, right? And they're like, oh, like you're a content creator, or you're a podcast, like you're not selling animals. So trying to get that credibility from that place. Then you also have the fact that like I'm very aware that I'm the only girl at this dinner table right now, right? So then there's also when we go to shows, like our booth is pink, it's purple, it's sparkly. We stand out like a sore thumb, and that's very intentional, right? And you see,
we want to stand out
of all the other
no skulls and fire and
yes, exactly. So I'm like, there's also that piece of it too, where I think when you're a hobbyist, you kind of have to be like, what's your cool kid card? When they're like, oh, so what do you keep? And I say keep chameleons, and then there's like usually a reaction to that. And then like she tells people she's got a yellow anaconda, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like
I definitely did notice a big difference when I got Tarzan, my yellow anaconda, and when I started telling people, it was like, oh, now they take me seriously.
Right.
Interesting.
But if we had just leopard geckos.
Cool kid card. I like
that.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and then I'm like, I keep chameleons. And they're like, oh, I used to breed chameleons in the day. And I'm like, yeah, but Christopher Parsons chameleon. Boom. And that's like, my cool kid card, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, okay. You know, you're not just someone who got like a veil from Petco or whatever, you know.
I think there is a little bit of in the hobby, like once you've been in it for a long time, like there are the beginner animals, and like and I think that some people might not
there's a little bit of a stigma.
There's a little bit of a stigma of like, oh, you only keep beginner animals. And it's like, okay, but somebody can be like a hella expert on leopard geckos, right? What's wrong with that? Like, who cares if they're passionate? Like, you're super passionate about chameleons. What if there's somebody who only, and there are people who
and I'd
only
rather
want
you
leopard
have
geckos. Like
the species you want kept at like the best possible care you can versus someone who's getting species that they're probably not a good fit for one reason or another, right? And so like, if given those two options, like I'd rather have the person who's got 5 leopard geckos living their best life than the person with like 15 retics, that like, anyway.
Are all in one cage.
I've made my point.
So basically there's all kinds of ways that we feel a little bit unsure or whatever. But I think honestly, a lot of it comes with time and building your credibility and just being consistent and growing your own personal confidence. Cause like, who I am today and how confident I feel, like I would happily walk into any dinner table being the only girl, being the only, content creator, whatever. And I would happily at this point sit down at the table and be like, let's chit chat. Like, what's up? Like, I have no, lack of confidence in that department now, but it's because it
took time.
It took 8 years for me to gain this confidence. So I think some of it just comes with learning and growing and
building those relationships, like you said, going to the expo, right? Like we used to come in with our shopping lists, right? And we would come in and come out. No one knew who we are. But when we're sitting at a table and then someone comes up and they're like, oh my gosh, are you Neptune the Chameleon? Or are you Lyssa's lizard? That vendor just saw some random person come up to us and they're like, oh, so when I'm going around filming and I look like whatever,
now they want to be.
They're like, come to our
my
table.
Yes.
And something is to be said too of just like the time spent, right? Because like we have been going to these same expos for 8 years, 7 years, however long, like, and it's like at this point we're going twice a year to all the same expos. And like those vendors now know who we are. We know who they are. We've had meaningful conversations. We've built those relationships. Now we go get dinner.
And we're here to stay. I think that's part of it too, right? Like this is a big passion of ours. And like we now are invested from a business perspective because we are vending, we have a table, right? So like we're trying to build those relationships that way. And so I think you get a little bit of credibility. But like I think, like I said at the beginning, this is true of anything when you're the new kid, right? Like people are gonna scoff you off of like, okay, we'll see who sticks around, and like people come and go, and you know.
And in defense of anybody who ever looked at us and was like, they'll be gone in a few years, I actually get that now because there are so many content creators who don't stick it through. And there are so many YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagram people, whatever.
And
like
podcasters. No one knows the work No one else knows the work of like the grind of a podcast specifically, right? Like how much work in your interview base, right? Like that's another level.
A whole other level.
On your podcast. So like that also, and then if you're just different, right? Like, and we all feel those as reptile keepers in our normal life, right? When people find out you keep reptiles and you get that look. And so now to go into your hobby and like get that look isn't always the best feeling, but you're just like, okay, see you next year, right? And then you see it again.
I think genuinely, like when it comes to getting hyper involved in the community, it really is just like consistency and the time put in, because I do understand why people are like, oh, they'll be gone, because there are so many that are. It truly is the people that are consistent, the people that put in the time, the people who show up every single time. Those are the people that end up gaining the confidence and feeling like that they deserve that seat at the table because they've been putting in the work and the time and the effort and the consistency. It's like, if you kind of put all that in, you eventually get to a point where it doesn't bother you, you know?
100%, and I think what she said, what they said, 100%. I think there's going back to the word patience. I think people don't wait, like they don't see the results in like they whether it's a breeder who's picked up one pair of animals and didn't get a clutch in the first year or couldn't sell the animals, they're like, screw this, I'm out, or a content creator who didn't blow up in the first 3 months of doing it, and they're like, this is not worth the effort because, as you guys said, it's a lot of work. And those are the kind of people that get washed out. But kind of on the expo topic, you guys go to the expos. You mentioned already you have your table, but you guys are also recording episodes from there, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little about that? What's that experience like?
Oh, That's tough.
That's a good enough answer. I'll take it.
We have a lot of admiration for interview-based podcasts. So anyone who hasn't checked us out, we're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever. But our episodes are like, thank you. We are like 99.9% of our episodes are just the two of us. Oh, this little bubble.
There's the thumbs up. Yeah.
Go away.
Now I know you guys are on an iPhone.
we have been friends for years, and the topics we talk about are things we talk about already, which is why we wanted to do the podcast in the first place. So like we're literally in her guest room right now, and we're just like hanging out, the two of us talking about things. Now you go into like the expo episodes, and that's when we do try to do interviews, because we like to do in person for those relationships and the dynamics, and so that has an added element. And the very first time we did our interview, we had like questions prepared. We're like super nervous. We're like sharing a mic because there's only like the two mics, and mics are not cheap.
The first time I got in there, and I just went straight in and asked the question and did no intro, no nothing. And I was like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. And so I was like, so she answered the question, right? The person you were interviewing. I was like, so tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever.
And I immediately was like, oh, I'm so stupid.
Forgot to do hellos and intros. And
yes.
But it is nerve-wracking, and it felt like we were like talking faster and time was moving faster versus when it's just the two of us, it's conversational. Then you have the hustle and bustle of an expo. So there's literally people watching us and walking by versus we're in a very safe space.
Yeah. Nobody can come in.
Like this is it. So like you have people watching, which is kind of the point, right? Of like see us in action, and maybe that'll pique your interest and you'll check out the podcast. But there's like that level of,
we also, the first couple times that we tried to do it, we tried to do it live. And
like live stream,
like a live stream. And if you have ever been to an expo, you may or may not know, depending on if you're a vendor or just like, a person coming to the expo, like the Wi-Fi is not great.
Yes.
No. So it looked like it was filmed underwater.
Or even like exists. It may not even exist. So it's like we very quickly realized we're like, all right, we got to pre-record at these shows too, or the quality is going to be in the gutter. So we had to figure that out too.
Yeah. But so they're definitely still very much outside our comfort zone. We've done like 3 at this point of like an in-person. And we also have to be mindful of like, okay, what's the value for us both as like Lyssa's Lizards, Neptune the Chameleon, and the podcast of attending these expos? Because are we vending and we're trying to build those relationships and recruit new listeners? Are we filming content as Neptune and Lyssa for like our own individual channels and brands? Or are we trying to film content for the podcast? And we only have so many hours in the day, and expo days just like fly by. So I'm like, so if you're sitting down and recording, that's like an hour of your day minimum, right, that you spent doing that. So it's like, okay, is that the best use of our time, like from a strategic standpoint, from a brand standpoint, because we want to find the balance of what is basically 3 brands, and so that's also part of it. And we're still trying to figure out what that balance
that's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
And it always will be.
I know.
It always
it's always going to
be.
shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you think you have it figured out, you're like, oh, but I could also do this.
100%. And there's always like other ideas we have or different things. And it's like, oh, but do we have time for that? Where can we squeeze it in? Like, and it depends on if we have people helping us at the booth or if it's just the two of us. Like, how does that go? Like,
are we traveling? Like, are we having to get in a car or a plane or a train to get to the show? Like, how much of our equipment do we want to be? Like, we've traveled with our neon sign. Like, that fit in my suitcase. So we had to like take it down. We had to pack it, of like, I'm like, okay, well, this is like a really big part of our brand and recognizable. And like, we can throw this up kind of like wherever. And so there's those considerations as well, just like logistics.
All kinds of stuff. But we want to start going to more expos. So we, starting in 2026, I think we're going to be, going to as many as we can.
We have a list. So. Let us know what Canadian shows are.
I was going to say, if you guys are ever thinking of coming to Canadian,
we want to.
We have our passports.
Yeah. We want to,
okay. Awesome.
It is on our list. We definitely would like to come to at least one Canada show sometime soon. So any of the ones we would love your recommendations on the biggest and best ones for sure.
You are speaking to the right person. I
knew it.
I could definitely let you know. Yeah. I could tell you guys off air, but the biggest one, if you're on the East Coast, is the Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo, which is actually September 13 and 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
And it's that weekend every year. So if you can't make it this year, it's and then on the West Coast, it's the WCRE, which is the Western Canadian Reptile Expo, which is August 16 and 17. So they're both coming up pretty soon. If you guys are able to make it to either of them, let me know and we can figure something out.
Maybe it's 2026.
I know.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year thing, but we do want to try and make it to a Canadian one.
We're trying to do more travel shows. So
yeah.
We want to go to the big ones. We want to go to the cool ones. We're not going to Repticon in the middle of
nowhere.
Nowhere.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's funny. You guys are kind of on the same page I am in reverse. So I'm just looking into trying out my first podcast at a Reptile Expo, and then I want to start traveling to the US for some shows because I haven't done any of the US shows yet.
So
apparently they're much better.
They're huge. They're great.
So pro tip, when you're interviewing, make sure your guest has headphones.
Yeah.
Because like the buzz of everything, they can't really hear. So at the very least, like make sure they have headphones. And like I feel like that we have Shure mics, but like I feel like they do a really good job of picking up even with all of the noise and everything. It just kind of sounds like you're in a coffee shop, which is kind of like a fun.
It's a fun vibe. Yeah. It's part of the like we're live at an expo.
Yes.
So it's cool. They did a good job.
I like that. Yes.
Yeah. We definitely learned our lesson though. The first time we tried to do an interview, we thought we could get away with not doing the headphones, and we were like, mistake.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
That makes sense. Are you guys interviewing vendors and guests and everyone like that? You kind of
We have so we've done. We had a veterinarian that we know that we've worked with who was amazing.
Content creator,
breeders.
Yeah.
A few different people, and we're coming up soon in the fall. We've got some other ones that we've got planned that'll be good. So we try to get a good mix because like the two of us are hobbyists, right? So like, she's bred her baby chameleons, but we're for the most part exclusively hobbyists. And so we try to get breeders,
different perspectives.
So we try to do that as much as we can in person. So.
No, that's awesome. I have so many more questions about this. I might even just message you guys later and kind of.
You're always welcome.
Please. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. My biggest thing would be like, how do you even schedule it? Like, how do you record a segment and then run away and then get somebody else and come back, or are you fixing time? But like I said, we can.
We could chat. Yeah.
We could chat about that later. The people don't want to hear that stuff, but yeah, I could. Yeah, exactly.
So what you want to do is send a Google invite.
But please let us know if you're coming to any US shows. We'd love to see if we have plans to go to the same ones. So we'd love to coordinate. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I definitely will. It was we're actually getting towards the end of the episode, so we'll wrap it up in a minute. But it was awesome to meet you guys and finally get to chat to you guys. I've been following you both for a very long time, and I've never kept any chameleons. Yeah, of course. I've never kept any chameleons, but I find them fascinating, and I did know about Tarzan and all your other animals. And I'm actually sad we didn't get the chance to actually dive into you guys' collections as well. But maybe that means
we can do another episode.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, nice. Pro tip for everyone listening: in sales, you don't want to end the conversation without getting another commitment.
So true.
No, I was kidding. So to wrap it all up, just to kind of stick to the main topic at hand here. If you guys could give any advice to younger reptile girlies, I love the phrase, younger reptile girlies starting out in the hobby, or even have been in the hobby and trying to find their place in the hobby, what would it be?
Oh man, so many things. So many things.
Step one, go listen to the Wild Type podcast.
Yeah,
covered that one. There you go. Number two.
Well, yes, it's so hard, but being unapologetically yourself. Mm-hmm. And this is true of literally anyone, right? Like this is not just for the reptile girlies, but like it can be so hard. And like this is why, like when we said you're the wild type of girl, like the Wild Type podcast came from like the Wild Type morph, but like feeling different, where you have your girlfriends, you have your friends, and they're into this thing and they're into this thing, and so are you. But then you're like, hey, I got this new reptile this weekend. This is their name, and they go, okay, cool. Like they want to be supportive because they're your friend, right? They want to care. Like one of my truly bestest friends, like I tell her about this and she's like, I can tell she's trying
to be excited.
But I knew whenever she came over to like my apartment at the time, I had to make sure bugs were out of sight because like she could not hang, and I knew I could never ask her unless it was like an emergency to come like take care of my reptiles. Like that is just so not her thing, but she loves me to pieces, and like I know she wants to be that supportive friend, and like she wants to Karen, get excited, but she's not. And I know that, and that's fine. And it can be hard sometimes when you don't have a reptile bestie or a girlie that you can like get excited about. Like the amount of reptiles we've gone together.
So many.
Is so special. And
so
like,
many.
And I'm just as excited for her. Or like when I had my first egg hatch, she was there coincidentally, right? And like
That's
we
awesome.
got to share in that moment together. Like we are so mindful. Not everyone has that. And it can be so hard when you're, you know, in high school or when you're at your grown-up job, right? And you're like, you know, and your coworkers are going around saying what they did that weekend. And you're like, yeah, I went to a reptile expo. And they all are kind of like,
I think every reptile keeper, male or female, doesn't matter, you know, old, young, literally doesn't matter. I think we can all relate to the feeling of telling somebody about our pets and getting a lackluster reaction.
And this is your passion, right?
Like snakes.
Right. And they're like, really? Like
in your home?
Interesting. Like, okay. And then like the conversation kind of like dies out and you're like, but I wanted to talk. Like, what?
I want to tell you more.
Like I wanted to, and it wasn't until like we found each other that it was like, oh my God, I could talk to you all day about this. And like, you get excited too. Like, I think that's really where like the podcast kind of started for us was we started posting together and we realized so many people wanted a friendship
want
like
that community, right?
Yeah.
And like I think that's where like your confidence came from, where my confidence came from, where like you can be unapologetically yourself. And that could mean reptiles, that could mean something else entirely. And it can be so hard to feel different. And even in your own hobby, even in the reptile hobby, you can still feel different. Like I'm sure sometimes you feel like being in Canada, you don't have access to these things, or you can't just pop to these shows. Like, you know, and you're like having FOMO looking through a screen of like, God, I really wish I could, I could be there. Like we've all felt that in one way or the other, where we felt kind of like an outsider looking in to what should be a very inclusive hobby, that we should be able to be just as passionate with the other people, where we have this common thing. Right? In a world where any other scenario, any other place, we feel like we're different. So like being able to find your people, guy, girl, big, small, like old, young, whoever, right? Just like stay true to you and you will find your people.
Yeah. I honestly, my advice would just be try to find that one person that you can like click with, that you can relate to, that you can talk to these things to about these things. And then from there, I think like having just one person to relate to can sometimes help build that confidence level too. And so I think if you just try to find one person, but even if you don't have that person yet, truly the number one advice is really just being unapologetically yourself, because who the hell cares what anybody thinks? Do whatever you want to do and do like get the species that you want to get, even if they're not beginners, even if it's not recommended, even if whatever. Get the species that you want to get, make the content that you want to make, or don't make the content, whatever. Find the people that you want to be friends with. Focus on what you want and what makes sense for you.
Life is too short for literally anything less. And we hope that like through our podcast, we're able to build a community of reptile girlies and guys where people can like feel seen, feel heard, and feel like they're a part of something like bigger than just their, you know, enclosure they have in their bedroom, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But
yeah, I think that's
was that good?
I
Did we do okay?
I feel like that's our biggest
you
thing.
guys killed it. That's
Thanks.
such great advice for, like you guys said, not just like just anybody in any hobby, in any niche. Just I like, and I'd never heard that phrase before, but be unapologetically yourself is gold. Somebody needs to like tattoo that. I don't know. It's that
I did not come up with it, I promise you.
Well, it's awesome advice. Absolutely.
Sure.
And I guess we can end it on that note. That was absolutely awesome. Guys, can you please let everyone know where they can find both your channels and the podcast, and all those links will be in the description for
Absolutely. So you can find us anywhere on @TheWildType Podcast, whether that's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the things. That's that's our podcast handle. So the Wild Type Podcast. And then you can find me anywhere at Lyssa's Lizards. And I'm also just on all the things.
Yeah, and you can check me out, Neptune the Chameleon, on all the platforms. So thank you guys. If you do check out the podcast, let us know in whatever episode you listen to on ours that you came from, Daffy's Roundtable.
Let us know.
So I can see.
Please. So fun.
That's good conversion right there. See, that's
it goes both ways. But no, thank
Yeah.
you so much for having us. Like, truly a pleasure. And from like one podcaster to another, like, we see you, we understand.
We know the grind.
Like, you have over 100 episodes. We just hit, I think, like 90 by the time, you know. So we're coming up on 100 ourselves.
Nice.
And like, yeah, it's a grind,
lot.
and like really appreciate everything that you do for the hobby and inviting us to come on and like asking the tougher questions and like being so receptive. Like, it means a lot to us.
And we loved it. This was so fun. We loved getting to chat with you. So we'd love to do it any other time.
Thank you guys very much. Yeah, no, hearing that is, you know, it's absolutely my pleasure to have you guys on. I would love to have you guys on again. And thank you, because it you know, once you get to past 100 episodes, you're like, is anybody noticing this? So
is anybody listening?
It is
it
is nice to get the recognition every once in a while.
For
thank you guys very much. And to everyone listening, go check out the Wild Type podcast. It's awesome. The ladies are awesome. And hopefully, like I said, we'll have you guys on again.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.